Okay guys, guess what? I actually play this game. I'm not just painting miniatures all the time. I actually do play, and I just thought I'd go over a list. This is the first list that I've ever really created that I've played multiple times and really refined and gotten to a point where I really am happy with the list. I like to just try everything. I'm always going with different lists whenever I'm playing games. But this is the first one that I really have sat down with. There was a little bit of a challenge posted on the FGFG forums about Tarkin and whether, with the advent of Wave 7 and the Sovereign ISD title, whether that was going to make Tarkin a more viable again. I took that up as a little bit of a challenge. I liked the list. I played it a couple of times and tested it. I liked it enough that I actually brought it to regionals where I finished fourth place with the list. And I've made a couple of other modifications since then, which we'll go over later. But for now, I just wanted to go over the shell of the list. So what I mean by that is these 370 points for the list have stayed basically constant throughout all of the iterations of the list. The extra 30 points have gone to different things, and I'll go over a couple of them. I'll go over what I actually brought to regionals, and then two modifications that I've made since regionals. So this is the core. We've got a Simoon ISD with Tarkin and the Sovereign title. So that's the core of the list right there. Obviously, you can't have Sovereign without an ISD. I went with the Simoon because I wanted the Fleet Command. The Fleet Command lets us spend tokens for things. Tarkin and Sovereign are all about tokens, so we needed that. And then we just have, basic, usual ISD stuff. We've got our gunnery teams on there, which is almost a must-have for a Simoon. And we've got our XI7s, which I really enjoy. It just lets you push more of the damage through the shields and to the hull of your opponent. So I like that a lot. And then we've got two Architons here, both exactly the same. They are the Command Cruiser, the more expensive one, but that was because I wanted engine techs. And again, another upgrade that we need to spend a command, dial, or token. So in this case, a token in order to activate. And so we have engine techs on both of them. And because Arcanance has a really poor maneuver chart here, engine techs are going to let us be much more maneuverable. Also lets us stay at a lower speed if we want to, or we could get all the way up to essentially a speed 4 if we wanted to. And then we've got quad battery turrets. I like quad battery turrets with the engine techs because in this list I want to be going slow. So if I can keep the Arcanins at speed 1, I'm essentially speed 2 with the engine techs, then quad battery turrets, because if I'm going slower than my opponent, I get to add a blue dice. And that blue dice has no restrictions to it in terms of range. So I can add those blue dice at long range. So out of my side arcs, I can now be throwing 3 reds and a blue at long range. And then what I like to do with the Architons, except for in very rare instances against specific lists, I like to just stack up concentrate fire commands. And that lets us add either another red or another blue to our roll. So now we're rolling 3 reds, 2 blues, 4 reds, and a blue, both of which are probably even stronger than the Simoon front arc, which is 5 red at long range. And then we have a Gazanti and a couple of squads, Sienna and Valen, who work well together. Hopefully they're not there to do a lot of work. They're there to, as a more of a defensive screen, hopefully tie up some squads, keep them off of our ships while they do their work. And then the objectives were the same that I chose for all of the lists. We've got Station Assault, Contested Outpost, and Dangerous Territory. Most people tend to take Station Assault, which is okay. I could possibly go with Most Wanted, but I like with Station Assault, it forces my opponent to come to me. With Most Wanted, I'm kind of chasing them around a little bit, which isn't really the goal of the list. So I prefer Station Assault. So that's the shell of the list. The next up, we are going to go over what I brought to regionals. Here we have my regionals list. For regionals, the ISD added a strategic advisor, give us a little bit of activation advantage, especially early in the game. We also added quad battery turrets as well to this. So again, want to go slow, add those blue dice in at long range. Architons were exactly as we had them. For the Gazanti, we added comms net. We also added Mauler Mythil as a squad. Now, just really quickly with Mauler, he didn't work well with the list. Just going over what I brought to regionals. I did not like Mauler, so you're not going to see him again. But comms net, the theory was I use the Gazanti, take the squadron token from Tarkin and Sovereign, lets me activate all three of the squads, and then as the squads start to die, I can use comms net in order to pass tokens to the other ships as needed. Okay, now post regionals, did a couple of different things. So the first list that I came up with, I dropped Strategic Advisor, went with Minister Tua instead. Strategic Advisor I just wasn't getting the value out of. Tua gets me the defensive retrofit, which lets me ECM the Simoon because it doesn't have a native defensive retrofit. Also had the quad battery turrets on there. For the Architons, we ended up adding the early warning system. Basically makes one of your arcs obstructed. It worked okay. It wasn't great. It's really difficult to expose only one arc of an Architons to your opponent. So that obstruction isn't quite as valuable. It still worked fairly well. You can put that on your arc that has no shields. Forces your opponent to decide, am I going to go through the obstruction or am I going to go to the hull zone that has shields? Kept the comms net here, dropped Mythil. So that was the first iteration after regionals. Now this is the most recent version that I've made of the list. This is this version I actually haven't had a chance to play yet, but I like the looks of this one. So here I kept Tua in ECMs. I did drop the quad battery turrets from the ISD on this one, and I'll say why. Quad battery turrets cost 5 points. I like to have a small bid for this, and that gave me my 5-point bid. If I didn't care about the bid and I wanted to just go with full 400, I could add the quad battery turrets back in. Architons, we dropped back to the base Architons for the list. We did drop comms net from the Gazanti, but we were able to add 2 TIE fighters, which gives us an extra deployment, which helps us a little bit at the beginning of the game during deployment. Now, with dropping the quad battery turrets, I could add comms net back into the Gazanti if I wanted to, although I've been finding this list is so token rich that having the comms net in the Gazanti really wasn't being that helpful. But if I wanted to, I could add it in, and I still have a 3-point bid, which isn't bad. I really don't mind. I actually prefer to go second with this list. I just find that when you're at exactly 400, sometimes your opponent will catch on and give you first player. I do have strategies for running as first player. Now, the weaknesses for any of these lists is really a squad heavy, especially a bomber list, especially if they can push those bombers at you without keeping their ships up there and keep them back. In that case, you pretty much have to turn your speed around. Instead of going slow, you got to be going fast and catch those ships as quick as you can and start eliminating them so that they can't activate their squads with them. And really then it's just a race between you and their squads and whether you can kill their ships before their squads kill you. But that's it. Those are the lists. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please click subscribe so that you're notified whenever I have more videos. I'm going to be doing more Armada and Legion videos in the very near future. Thank you very much.